Ukraine has claimed another surprise attack, this time on the Kerch Bridge in the Crimean peninsula. Kyiv's SBU's Secret Service released this footage showing a blast coming out of the water. Since the beginning of the war, the Kerch Strait Bridge that connects Crimea to the Russian mainland was Russia's main military supply line for the peninsula, making it a prime target for Ukraine. Crimea was illegally annexed by Russia from Ukraine in 2014, and the Kerch Bridge has been attacked several times throughout the war. Now let's go straight to DW's Max Zander in Kyiv. Max, what more can you tell us?
Right, Gerhard. So the security camera footage has been making the rounds this afternoon, and it is said to show an underwater explosion taking place next to the pillar of the Kerch Bridge. The SBU claims this is part of an operation that they have been planning for many months, and they say they were able to rig the pillar of the Kerch Bridge with the equivalent of 1,100 kilograms of TNT. They say they were able to set this charge off in the early morning hours and damage the pillar, and they say the bridge is in an emergency state at the moment. Now, from judging by the information that is coming out of Russia, the Russians are saying that the bridge was temporarily closed for an inspection and later reopened in the early morning hours.
Now, how important is this bridge for Russia's war effort?
Right, this is a very significant, very prestigious structure. It was opened inaugurated by President Vladimir Putin in 2018 by Putin himself. This is the largest bridge in Europe, and it connects occupied Crimea with the Russian mainland and spans about 20 kilometers, which makes it the largest bridge in Europe. This bridge has a train line. There's also car traffic going over it. This bridge is being used to supply Crimea from the Russian mainland, but also the Russian military in Crimea and in occupied territory, which makes it a valid military target in the eyes of the Ukrainians. And in fact, this is not the first time the Kerch Bridge was attacked. This is the third time. It already happened in 22 and 23 with bombs on a truck, with a bomb on the truck in the first instance, and in the second one with the help of sea drones. Now, this is a new way of attacking the bridge, and it's likely not going to be the last one.
Now, what about the timing of this? Ceasefire negotiations between Russia and Ukraine took place just yesterday.
That's right. The ceasefire negotiation, the second round, concluded yesterday without any significant outcome. And from a Ukrainian perspective, with the Russians dragging their feet there. Now, over the last couple of weeks, both sides have been trying to assert dominance to strengthen their negotiating position, Russia through aerial attacks and Ukraine through different unconventional methods. We saw a large-scale drone attack, an operation that has never been done before on Sunday with the Ukrainians taking out bombers of the Russian Air Force across the entire country. And now this is a new way of showing the Russians that they are vulnerable, and perhaps also showing Western allies that Russia is not invincible.
Max Zander there reporting for us from Kyiv. Thank you very much, Max. And we can now speak to Inna Sovsun. She is a member of the Ukrainian parliament and the deputy head of the Holocaust Party. She joins us from Kyiv. Now, Ukraine is claiming an attack on Russia's bridge to Crimea. How are you seeing this attack?
Well, we're seeing it as a follow-up to what has happened 2 days ago on Sunday, when the Ukrainian security service, the SBU, has blown up a third of the Russian aircrafts. And that is the follow-up of that. I think that was a very well-planned operation to show that Ukraine actually still has the cards to play in this game, if we use the terminology that has been used by President Trump of the US. So that's the logical step, and we'll see what else is there coming up from the SBU.
In which way is the timing of this related to the talks going on in Istanbul?
Well, from what we know from the security service head himself, the operation in Russia, the one took place on Sunday, that was being planned for 18 months. And the operation that took place today, the blowing up of the Kerch Bridge, has been in preparation for a couple of months. So it was not specifically planned for this specific timing, but of course the timing is important in itself because it does show that Ukraine's positions need to be taken into account. We simply cannot be bullied around during the negotiations because we still have the power, we still can do significant damage to the Russian Federation. And I think that this increases Ukraine's opportunities during this negotiations process, that we understand it was never going to be easy. And it wouldn't be easier, but I do think that this definitely improves our chances and our position in those negotiations.
Also, a senior Ukrainian delegation, including the head of the presidential office, is in the US currently for talks on defense support. What do you expect to come out of those talks?
Well, they are there to talk about both defense support and sanctions, and both are critically important because sanctions is the way to undermine Russia's capability to attack Ukraine, and then weapons are important to make sure that Ukraine has the weapons to fight back if it is being further attacked. So both elements are important. It's again not going to be easy negotiations. We do see some improvements in our relations with the DC, with the Trump administration overall. And I do think that recent operations by the security service definitely helps in that direction. But we'll see what will come out of that exactly. But we hope that the general trend of improving the relationships between both Ukraine and the United States will continue. And we will have some specific results, particularly in terms of sanctions, that there are some very specific decisions that are pending.
Now, Ukraine and Russia made very little progress during their second round of talks in Istanbul. The positions remain far apart. Where do things go from here?
Well, you can never be absolutely sure about where things can go from there. I do think that Russia was on Monday, 24 hours after what has happened in the territory of Russia, has been in no position to offer any sort of concessions. But I think that they will come to terms with the reality of the situation, that Ukraine is a strong opponent, and they cannot simply continue to push forward their own agenda and hope that Ukraine will agree to absolutely everything that they're asking of us. So we have to continue talking, we have to continue pushing Russia, but it could never be a negotiation where Ukraine just gives in to anything that Russia is asking. And I think now the dynamics has definitely changed in those negotiations, and Russia just needs some time to process all of that.
Ines Sovsun there, member of the Ukrainian parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.